Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily here in this Hump Day edition. Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Chrysan over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood in Baton Rouge, right down the road from Parkview Baptist off Airline Highway. He'll be there during the show, and again on Friday, he'll be there as well. I'm joining you from an undisclosed location presented by Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.com. Big news coming out of Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame next Wednesday. And we are presented each and every week by LeBear's Casino. LeBear's Casino, the Barstool Sportsbook, the number one place to watch games on the east side of the river in Baton Rouge. Great food, great fun, great venue. You can literally sit there and play blackjack or roulette, and then 10 feet away from you is the Barstool Sportsbook window, and then around you are all the fans and all the tons of TVs, to watch the games. Great place to be at LeBear's Casino. The story of the week, the story of the year in the NFL is the fact that Aaron Rodgers played 4 snaps and he's out for the year with a torn Achilles. One of the more shocking situations ever, Tommy, in sports. The buildup for Aaron Rodgers in New York was tremendous. It was only enhanced by the HBO Hard Knocks following the Jets for 5 episodes in the month of August, which were fantastic. I know myself and Hunter McCann have watched them. And that got me even more hyped for the Jets. A Super Bowl contender out of the AFC with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, now not so much. What was your reaction? What did you see? I think watching it live, no one thought that he had a torn Achilles.
Well, first off, whether you like Aaron Rodgers, whether you like the New York Jets or not, that doesn't matter. You don't want to see anyone get hurt, especially out for the year. You don't want to see him miss a week. Ronnie, this has been around for a long time. After the game, you see all the NFL players tapping each other and bro hugging on the field. It's an unwritten rule. The last 2 words they say are "stay healthy" to each other. Like if you played for the Jets and I played for the Bills, I'd be, "Hey, Ronnie, how you been? Good. I hadn't seen you in a while. How's the family? Stay healthy." Because they all know that most players don't play in the NFL that many years. So make the money when you can by staying healthy. And it comes from back when contracts weren't guaranteed. But again, it's just terrible for the Jets. It's for Aaron Rodgers. It's terrible for the NFL. The Green Bay Packers. They were scheduled to get a first-round pick if he took 65% or more of the snaps for the Jets. Now they'll get a second-round pick because that was in the trade deal with him. So it affected the Green Bay Packers as well. So I just hated to see that. I didn't know it was a torn Achilles, especially when he got off that cart and limped to the locker room. I'm thinking, and now they're reporting it's completely torn. Knock on wood, I've never had an Achilles issue, but I didn't know you could walk. Then I've heard other players say, yeah, you can walk with a torn Achilles. You just obviously can't play football, especially not at that level. So he's done for the year now. Ronnie, social media went nuts. Jameis Winston's going to get traded to the Jets. Tom Brady's coming out of retirement. Then the coach says Zach Wilson's our guy. Brett Rodgers is done, but the Jets aren't done. It was amazing, the reaction on social media league-wide. But then I guess the big thing was so many players. I'm talking dozens of players. The whole turf versus natural grass surface situation, it's surfaced, all over social media. And a lot of the national writers are writing about it. And, it's a money thing. I told you a minute ago, at that stadium, there was a concert Thursday night, a concert Saturday night. The Giants played Sunday and the Jets played Monday night. If that's an artificial grass surface, Jets aren't playing Monday night because it's going to be tore up from 2 concerts and another football game. So I don't see anything happening. There are 30 NFL stadiums. 16 of them have natural grass, including Arizona that rolls it in from outside. 14 have artificial surface, including the Saints. So I don't think we're going to have any change where they're all going to rush off and do grass. I don't see that for money reasons. Not that they can't afford to do it, but like I said, the stadium in New Jersey there has multiple events, and a lot of stadiums have the same thing.
I think this debate on if the turf is really that much more dangerous than the grass is going to continue. They're going to dig into the data to make sure that that's really the case. We did see an uptick last year in turf versus grass injuries, but really the previous year or two there wasn't. So I'm not sold that this new version of artificial turf. Yeah, the stuff in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that was different. But this new version of turf, that by the way, is at most any high schools worth their salt. Little Johnny and Jane play baseball and softball on this turf all over the country, and it makes so much sense financially. It's so much easier to take care of, especially in cold weather areas like New York and anything above the Mason-Dixon line where you have snow and all the different seasons. It makes even more sense than it does in, say, Louisiana or Texas. I'm not convinced that it's this horrible thing like people say. It's easy to say, oh, the turf, the turf, the turf. And so I want to see, and look, the NFL and these venues are not going to change to the grass until they have to, until they're mandated or there's some lawsuit that tells them they have to. Because just as you pointed out, the Meadowlands could not have had all those events this weekend had they had natural grass. And so, will every stadium be like Arizona, where they roll in the grass on a platter, on a plate, and have some sort of surface? Because look, the Super Bowl was there in Arizona. People were complaining about that grass. They had natural grass and it was given out, and there were a lot of divots and a lot of holes. So I don't know if there's a perfect solution, but I'm not ready to say turf is the answer, because the numbers don't prove it, that there's this super big uptick in injury on this new turf.
Yeah, and again, they'll dive into those stats and those things. And like you said, artificial surfaces used to be a problem. LSU's own Wendell Davis blew both knees out in Philadelphia on the same play. And I remember the old turf in the old Superdome. We played baseball in there with the North All-American League one time. It was a joke. You had seams, literally seams that could, you could trip over, okay, or a ball could take a crazy hop off it. And it was rock hard. It was concrete hard. They're significantly better now, way better. Many high schools have turf. I mean, I can't count how many high schools have turf. And I wanted to say there's over 400 turf youth baseball fields in the state of Louisiana. Now, some of those are because there's 8 of them on one facility. But Lionel Messi, greatest soccer player ever, will not play on turf but for fear of being injured. Now, he can get injured on grass. I'm like you. They got to do a deep dive. And I don't know if there'll be enough statistics to say that the turf, that if Aaron Rodgers had been on grass, they could prove that he would not have torn his Achilles tendon. I don't think you can do that. I mean, you get hurt. You got guys, I know high school guys that sprain their ankle getting off the bus for a game, okay? I mean, injuries are part of the game. Yeah, nobody wants Rodgers out for the year. Nobody, okay? But it happens. I mean, there's other players that got hurt this past weekend in the NFL, and they're out for the year. Who was the running back, Dobbins, for the Ravens, blew up a knee. He's out for the year. So, I mean, it's unfortunately part of the game.
I really, look, they're going to absolutely dig in on the stats to see. And then the question becomes, well, how different do the numbers have to be for them to say for the NFL, for example, like the World Cup in soccer? They don't play any soccer venues anywhere that has turf. It's only natural grass. But in the NFL, what's going to have to happen for them to mandate for the other 14 teams to all go to turf? Imagine the Superdome, for example. The Superdome is incapable of having grass. It's not a modern day facility where they can, roll the grass in from outside and bring it in like that, and like the new stadiums that are being built. It's a dome. There's no grass. And so unless the numbers are they do some research and they find out it is egregious one way or the other, and then what are all these other venues going to do? The colleges and high schools and little league fields around the country, in the sense that they don't have the option, right? They don't have the billions of dollars. They don't have the option. So I think what we're going to see is and we saw a little bit of the data the last couple of years. A couple years ago, data was basically about the same this past year. There was a little uptick of injuries on turf versus grass. But what does that have to be? When we're talking about 0.007 versus 0.004, okay, yeah, that's more, but is it worth, all right, this is just not safe, and we've got to spend gazillions of dollars to revamp stadiums? I doubt we're going to see that happen.
Ronnie, I'll bet a bottle of wine here off the shelf at Tremonti's that the NFL is not going to mandate people to put grass in. That's not going to happen. I really believe that. Now, think about the Superdome. We've all been there a million times. They can't do what Arizona did and have a football field out, in the middle of the desert where that stadium is and roll it into the dome. I mean, there's not enough land available anywhere near the Superdome. I mean, now could they bring in? I mean, I guess anything can be done, but I don't think I'm not saying it's an overreaction, but it's a reaction to the injury to Aaron Rodgers. But again, Dobbins got hurt for the Ravens. I'm sure other guys got banged up here and there. The Saints got a guy that's got to have surgery on his toe, the defensive lineman, Peyton Turner, I want to say. So, I mean, it's always been a part of sports. Unfortunately, it'll always be a part of sports.
All right, where do you go if you're the Jets? I mean, I don't believe Zach Wilson is at a point in his career where he's going to now lead them to the promised land. I definitely think he was a guy that was going to benefit tremendously in his career for being a backup behind Aaron Rodgers for a year or two, learning from him, watching him, and that was going to give him a chance to reset his career, a talented player who obviously was the first. Now he's thrown into the fire. Look, that was amazing that they beat the Buffalo Bills. I mean, give the Jets defense credit. I don't know how they beat the Bills after everything that happened, lack of offense. The defense won the game. The special teams obviously won the game for the Jets. And thank you for that because I did have the in the game. I want a little Benjamin on that one. But if you are the Jets, and again, with the NFL, the way the cap works and everything, I mean, I don't know fully what their situation is financially, but the Jets are a Super Bowl contender with the right quarterback. I'd be surprised if they sit pat and don't do anything.
I'm sure they burned up the phone lines. I mean, there's some free agent quarterbacks out there. There's some backups, including Jameis Winston, out there that they got to try to determine is one of those guys better than Zach Wilson? Does that give them a better chance to win going forward? So I'm sure they're doing their due diligence. They're on the phone. They're checking it out. They're getting all their scouting staff to give it every report they got on the quarterbacks that might be available, be it trade. A couple of the free agent quarterbacks. There's a couple of like Joe Flacco, a couple other guys, Carson Wentz, that aren't even in the NFL could sign tomorrow. But the other thing is a quarterback's not going to – you go back to the salary cap, quarterback's not coming for, $2 million. They're going to come – especially if they got to play, they're going to want, $10 million or more, depending on who it is.
Do you go to Tom Brady? I mean, do you make that call? I mean, even if he tells you no, you got to call.
I think you got to make the call. I mean, if you and I are in the Jets front office, I'm saying, hey, we got to call the guy and see what he says.
Make him say.
And then if he says, forget it, then you scratch him off the list and you go to the next guy on the list. I mean, I think you have to make that call. Again, it's all about, can you find somebody that makes your team better, gives you a chance to win on Sunday and make a run in the playoffs. So I think you make the call to answer your question.
I don't think he would say yes. I think he's going to say no, but I think you absolutely have to make the call. And if you did pull somebody off the street like him, you're talking about, it's going to take 3 weeks to ramp up.
Well, and it's a whole different system. The lingo, the jargon, the play calls. I mean, it's people be amazed that they knew, and they've seen it now because of Netflix and all. What it is, they don't just say like in high school when you said power I right 36 wham, and everybody knew what to do. I mean, some of these plays are like a paragraph long, and a certain part means a part to the offensive lineman. Some means that everybody's got the one little part they listen to know what they got to do. But then when you get to the line, it can all change. So, yeah, I mean, people that haven't seen that would be amazed at what it takes to call a single play in the NFL.
By the way, a couple of big takeaways from the game besides Aaron Rodgers' injury is Quentin Williams, the defensive lineman for the Jets, is so good. I mean, he is just so good.
Is that the dude from Arkansas?
Yeah.
I remember seeing him at Arkansas, and I think he was number 55 at Arkansas. And I remember thinking, holy smokes, this guy's better than everybody else out there. You're right. He's good.
He's great. They gave him a $100 million deal or something close to that. Just a good person, hard worker, and just disrupts everything. Just disrupts everything. And the other thing is the little punt returner who won the game, of rookie out of Stephen F. Austin, an undrafted rookie. It was an amazing story. He made the team anyway as a special teams return guy and a wide receiver. And then to have the walk-off punt return, only the third walk-off punt return in overtime in NFL history. I mean, just a storybook ending. And to win a game without Aaron Rodgers against Buffalo on Monday Night Football, like, incredible. Like that just goes to show you how good that team is. And it's a shame, but I mean, even with Zach Wilson, who knows? Maybe they can limp in. Maybe they can get to 9 wins. I don't know. We shall see. All right, let's move on. Let's talk a little New Orleans Saints for a quick sec. They are what now? 3-point favorite?
3-point favorite. Over and under is 40.5. That's a 6:15 kickoff Louisiana time Monday night. There is another NFL game, Browns Steelers. Kicks off at 7:15 Louisiana time. So Saints at Panthers, 3-point favorite, 40.5 to over under. The ratings on Bryce Young's debut with the Panthers, just a couple of nice throws, but for the most part, it was not a big review. I think they gave him a D- in one of the columns I read. Saints, they won a game against a good defensive team in the Titans, and maybe I like the Saints. That's my early call. I like the Saints Monday night on the road. Monday Night Football.
I initially thought, what a crappy game for Monday Night Football. Saints Panthers. Like, I mean, we care. I mean, we'll watch every Saints game. But like, if you're somebody in Chicago, Saints Panthers, why would they put that in Monday Night Football? And then you realize, wait a minute, it's a doubleheader. They're both games are crappy. Browns Steelers, nobody really cares outside of that division. Browns look like the better team right now anyway than the Steelers do. But so you got two games that are division rivals. They just kind of threw the crappy games on the slate because they got two of them. So at least.
Well, you do have Bryce Young, the number 1 pick in the draft. I mean, that's a story. And that's part of why they selected that game, right. I'm sure. But, and then, the Derek Carr stuff. Chris says Derek Carr sucks. I mean, that's his opinion. But, I don't know. I'm kind of like, my early call is I'm liking the Saints. And probably the game I'm liking the most, you're going to cringe. I'm loving the Cowboys to whip up on the Jets. I just think the Jets, they won the other night, and I guarantee you people will live bet the Bills like crazy when Rodgers got hurt. Okay. Oh. I mean, like crazy. But I'm really liking the Cowboys who look good against the Giants. I think it's like an 8 or a 9 point line, but I'm going to look at it a little closer. But, it's the Saints Monday night. I can remember when Saints fans used to beg for the team to be on Monday night. Now here they are.
Makes sense for the Cowboys would beat the Jets and get let down. There's the adrenaline flowing. You're in game, but now it's like, woe is me. The season's over. We got Zach Wilson. He's limited in what he can do offensively. Chris saying Derek Carr sucks. We know Chris's MO is just to stir the pot. If we're going to say a guy sucks, let's wait till he throws under 300 yards in a game, and then you can say that, right?
Or doesn't get a W.
Right. All right, we move on. By the way, terrible news. Mike Williams, the wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Bucks, died. Was in a construction accident, and then died yesterday. Guy was 37, 8 years old, 6, something like that, between 35 and 40 years old. Remember former Tampa Bay Bucks. He was like the runner-up to Rookie of the Year back in 2010, 2011 when he was drafted and had a big year with the Bucks. Just sad story there. Prayers to his family. And then how about Major League Baseball? We'll talk plenty more about Major League Baseball as now we start to get close to the playoffs here at the end of this month. But Matt Olson, 51 bombs with the Atlanta Braves, ties the single-season record.
Yeah, Andrew Jones held that. And Jones, one of my favorite players. I used to love to watch him play. But Olson, his swing is a lot like Will Clark. Left-handed, kind of a long swing, if you will, and he can flat out hit a baseball. 51 homers. Obviously, he's going to break the record. It's several weeks left in this season. Astros have lost a couple in a row to Oakland, but they're on top of the West. That AL West is probably the tightest division. But that Matt Jones story, Olson story in Atlanta, and there's some that say Atlanta's the best team in baseball, and there's a strong argument can be made for that. They were the first team to mathematically clinch a playoff spot. So I've been keeping an eye on baseball, but obviously football is on everybody's mind.
With the ties to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame this year when Ron Washington and Paul Byrd both got inducted. Now, of course, Ron Washington, third base coach of the Braves, and he missed his first games of his career when he came to Natchitoches. And then Paul Byrd, who's not doing TV this year because of his wife's illness, he sat out this year, but obviously he played for the Braves and has been doing TV and stuff for them for years. Because of that, I never was a Braves fan, but now I kind of am, right? I'm pulling for those guys. It means a lot to them. I want their franchise to do well. I want them to win. Braves obviously are managed by a former player, but that's my team's the Cubs. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of just, not as into MLB on a day in, day out basis, more of a college guy. So if it's not going to be the Cubs, why not be the Braves? That's kind of my attitude.
Yeah, I've always kind of been a Braves fan back to the days of Bob Horner and Dale Murphy, and Joe Torre was a manager there and some other players. Because that was a time when you could get every Braves game on the old Superstation, so you kind of latched on to them. So I've always kind of kept an eye on the Braves, and I've been to Fulton County Stadium. I've been to all the baseball stadiums that they played in over there over the course of time. Because 8-hour drive, 7.5 hours, whatever it is. A lot of times I've taken in many a Brave game, so that's cool.
The LSU football, some news came out, I think yesterday, whatever, that they are going to play Arkansas at 6:00, their next home game. So, this week, of course, on the road, nobody's happy about that, 11 a.m. Mississippi State. But if you are going to play an 11 a.m. game, make sure it's on the road, right? I mean, LSU fans don't want to play at home if they don't have 11 o'clock. But you're going to play Mississippi State 11 o'clock. But next week against Arkansas, 6:00. So that's going to be a giant crowd in for that one.
And let's point out, with the 11 a.m. kickoff this Saturday, Sports Shorts Radio will be 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the Barstool Sportsbook. So, I mean, I can't wait to finish radio and watch the game. And there's going to be a big crowd. There's a big crowd. We were there last Saturday. So make your plans to come out to the Barstool Sportsbook early. Check us out doing radio. You'll be able to hear it in the sportsbook for the 2 hours that we're on. And then shortly after we're done, it'll be LSU Mississippi State kicking off from Starkville. So if you can't make it by, tune in to 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge on the app or the iHeart thing, whatever it might be. But it's a little programming change there. Sports Shorts Radio Saturday morning at 9. We want you to come join us at the Barstool Sportsbook. Watch the game, hang around that night, go to the Edge Lounge. You can make a day out of it.
All right, today.
Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Lasagna is the lunch special today. They can do all the catering, all your tailgate party packages. Tremonti's.com, the wine, the whiskey, all the meat and seafood, the 20 different flavors of sausage. Tremonti's.com. Connect on Facebook and Instagram. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Jefferson Highway in Baton Rouge.
All right, Tommy. As far as bettors out there, we'll break down Monday, break down with their picks. We'll pick LSU. Have one other. That'll be Friday. With action. For Tommy, I'm Ronnie. Have a good one, everybody.